Mr. President,
South Africa's envoy described as a matter of urgency the deteriorating situation in eastern Congo as an M23 advance now threatens Goma, the capital of North Kivu, as she warned that the attacks were in violation of an August ceasefire agreed between the DRC and Rwanda.
we deplore the unwarranted attacks against MONUSCO and the South African Development Community Mission in the DRC's uniformed personnel who are deployed not only to promote peace, security, and stability in the Eastern DRC, but by extension in the African continent in general. Our sincere condolences go out to the families of those peacekeepers who have lost their lives, and we wish a speedy recovery to those injured. The cost of being a UN peacekeeper should never be this high.
Joyini highlighted that the fundamental principles enshrined in the UN Charter, including principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity, were being eroded, while pointing to the well-documented presence of external forces destabilizing the DRC, most notably the Rwandan Defense Force.
The international community can no longer afford to simply watch as conflict in the Eastern DRC continues to displace, maim, and kill innocent civilians. The current situation in the Eastern DRC requires decisive action from the international community led by this Council.
Earlier, the head of MONUSCO, Bintu Keita, explained that the mission was supporting efforts to hold those responsible for human rights violations in eastern Congo responsible, and has urged the Security Council to take decisive action, including targeted sanctions against perpetrators of violations, arguing that no exceptions should be made. In a statement, UN Chief Antonio Guterres expressed his deepest condolences to the governments of South Africa and Uruguay that both suffered losses under the UN flag, while calling on M23 to immediately cease all hostile actions, withdraw from occupied territories, and further called on Rwanda's defense force to cease its support to M23 and withdraw from the DRC's territory. 2 South African and 1 Uruguayan soldier attached to MONUSCO died, while at least 10 soldiers from South Africa and Malawi fighting under SADC's SAMIDRC mission also perished in the M23 advance.
Today, despite ongoing MONUSCO support to FRDC, M23 and Rwandan forces penetrated Munigi, captured in the outskirts of Goma city, causing mass panic and flight among the population. Roads are blocked and the airport can no longer be used for evacuation or humanitarian efforts. M23 has declared the airspace over Goma closed. In other words, we are trapped. I call on this council to act now to secure the civilian population, humanitarian aid workers, and all United Nations personnel.
The DRC later called on the Council to order the immediate end to hostilities and the imposition of sanctions and travel bans, while revoking the status of Rwanda as a troop contributing country to UN peacekeeping.
The Democratic Republic of the Congo legitimately expects from this council to act firmly and promptly to safeguard international peace and security and to uphold international law. This is a power that is exclusively granted to the Council by the UN Charter. Mr. President, at this very moment, as I'm speaking before you, an attack of unprecedented intensity is taking place in plain sight of the world. Additional Rwandan troops have crossed the boundary markers 12 and 13 of the border crossing between Goma and Gisenyi, penetrating to our territory in broad daylight in open and deliberate violation of our national sovereignty. It's a frontal aggression, a declaration of war, which no longer hides itself behind diplomatic maneuvers.
Rwanda called the matter a domestic issue for Congo, while accusing the DRC and its allies of positioning an unprecedented security threat to his country, including an alignment with what it views as the genocidal FDLR group operating in eastern Congo.
Militarization by the DRC, including the formation of a broader coalition involving the FARDC, the FDLR, Wazalendo, 10,000 Burundian forces, 1,600 European mercenaries, and SADC-led SAMIDRC forces represents an unprecedented security threat to Rwanda. For 2 years, DRC President Felix Tshisekedi has publicly vowed to instigate regime change in Rwanda. That's a very serious matter for us. A head of state who declares regime change on another country is a matter not to be taken lightly. This rhetoric, coupled with the coalition's significant military presence along Rwanda's border, is destabilizing and unacceptable. Rwanda also notes with disappointment the international community's failure to condemn the use of foreign mercenaries in this conflict.
Angola, that is leading mediation efforts, urged the parties to return to the tenets agreed to in the ceasefire struck between Rwanda and the DRC under the Luanda process. SABC News, New York.